3, 2, 1.
There it goes. And here we come. Oh. Yes, sir. Another episode of the Johnny Jig's podcast. We're talking fishing, lots of fishing, offshore fishing, inshore fishing, kayak fishing, big boat fishing. If it's fishing related, that's what we like to talk about.
Because we're tapping bottom with the boys.
What's up, guys? I am Captain Johnny from Johnny Jig's Tackle Company, and you are listening to Tapping Bottom with Johnny Jigs. And today, I have my co-host Christopher Doyle, as well as my co-host Adam Uri. And then today, we also have a special guest with us, and this guy really is one of the pioneers of tournament kayak fishing here in South Florida. But in addition to that, the host of the weekly Fisherman Show, our buddy Joe Hector. What's up, Joe?
What's up, guys?
Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for the invite today, man.
I'm glad you can make it.
I get to jive with you guys. It's going to be a fun show.
Yeah, we almost did it yesterday. And then,
almost.
But, things happen.
Oh, yeah.
Very busy business that we're in.
But here we are today.
We're here.
We're here.
Ready to
We're
rock.
Live and ticking.
Yeah.
But, man, kayak fishing has been, I think, like from the inception of Johnny Jigs, like we've been on the water and we're like, these are the dudes that are jigging, right? We're like, this is our customers.
Yeah.
These are the guys who want Johnny Jigs. And then, just kind of going down that rabbit hole for us. We've met, lots of kayak fishermen. And I think that's what led us to you, Joe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But where was the beginning of, for you, kayak fishing? I mean, were you like, you know what? I'm going to take a canoe out here. Maybe it's better to use a kayak. I mean, where did it start from, right?
Yeah. So I grew up in New Jersey and I moved here to actually go to the Art Institute, an art school. And I was in graphic design and, I was one of those struggling college students, I had
An artist.
Yeah, an artist. And I was living off ramen noodles, the same story you kind of always hear. I loved fishing so much that one day I was in my little studio apartment eating my ramen and had a little thing of vodka next to me. That was my thing back then. And
Wait, ramen with vodka?
Oh yeah, not like mixed, but I had my drink, my little cocktail.
It's like a drinking game. You're like, one bite of ramen, one shot.
Oh, dude, the ramen noodles. I don't know if they're different today. I haven't had them in years. They were amazing.
Oh, how we did.
Oh, we're going to get down a whole rabbit hole with ramen noodles and how great they were. But the show came on Discovery Channel. I'll never forget. And it was one of those episodes talking about these Indians, and they were hunting those Norway whales, the ones with the horns. They look like unicorns.
Narwhal,
you got
Narwhal.
it. And I'm watching this episode, and I didn't have a boat, and back then I didn't know anybody with a boat. I was pretty new here in South Florida, and I was just itching to get offshore and just catch some of these fish that I would see in all the media here. And all of a sudden, it hit me. And I said, oh, my God, I can get in a canoe like these guys hunting these whales, and I can go offshore and catch fish. That's amazing. And, of course, I'm half, cocked, and, I'm, eating my ramen and
drinking my vodka.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow.
One more shot of vodka. Next thing you know, you're chopping down a royal palm to make a canoe.
Oh, man. So I'm watching this, and I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to do this. And I did it. And I went to Bass Pro, and I went in there. I got this cheap, I think it was called the Endeavor kayak. And I ended up getting two because I got a good deal. So I got this other orange one. You know those old kayaks where you can surf waves with them?
Oh, okay.
They're not meant for fishing. They're short. We called it the Orange Crush. So long story short, I bought the kayaks. We went out the next day, and for the first time ever. So I've never kayak fished ever.
Or fish South Florida.
Or fish South Florida. Exactly.
Are we talking? You went out in the ocean, or you?
Yeah, dude. We literally went, dragged these things like across the street. Like we already were ruining and scratching the bottoms, and just I'm talking like old school. No one was doing this. You know, we're talking like 2006, 7.
Okay.
You know, and we get to the Pompano Beach right there. We launch. And again, we don't know what we're doing. It's like choppy. Nathan flipped like 3 times trying to get out of the surf because his kayak's like this big. And, you know, we make it out. I got this old, man, it was like an old pen, but it was like too big for like what we were doing. And I had like a medium heavy rod. And yeah, man, we went out there. I had sardines, right?
Yeah.
The old, like, just old stinky sardines were like, I couldn't hook like the first 3 because they were melting in my hand. I had no idea what I was doing. And we go out, and this is like the craziest thing of all. After an hour and a half, I'm looking at the shore, and I'm like, oh my God, like this current's like stronger than I thought. So we're already like heading towards Boca. And so we don't even know how we're going to get back. And then we're in like probably 200 feet, and I'm guessing. But I looked where the charter boats were, and I'm like, okay, well, that's where we're going to go. So we went out to there, and we have people looking at us like we're like, you know, this guy's like riding by in the center console. He's like, you guys all right over there? I was like, yeah, we're good. We're good. He's like, I can overhear him, you know, and because there's like an echo, and he's like, those guys are freaking crazy, man. And so
Because nobody's doing this,
I
right?
know. Dude, there's no. So we're out there, and all of a sudden, man, my line goes off. I'm like, oh my God, you know, I got something. This is great. So I grab it. My kayak instantly, I've never hooked a fish in it. So my kayak like turns, which was interesting in the future of how, you know, when you get a fish, how the kayak actually maneuvers itself and kind of centers itself. You know what I'm saying? When you get something pretty big, all of a sudden I see in the distance, something's jumping. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what is that? Is that now, I fished offshore in Jersey. We would go to the canyons and catch like bluefin tuna. I mean, mahi, bluefin, marlin.
Right, so you had
with my
offshore
dad. Yeah,
experience.
so I knew my fish.
Right.
So I'm looking, and I'm like, that's a mahi, I think. That's a big mahi. Now, again, mind you, I have not fished offshore in South Florida. So to me, I always thought it was pretty normal to get big mahi out here because that's kind of how it's promoted.
Yeah.
Even though they're like extinct now. And I see this monster head. Long story short, I get him to the kayak. It's a 30-pound bull mahi that ate my sardine, spit it out, ate it again, spit it out. And I'm like, is this fish, I'm going to lose him again. He came again, grabbed it, and I finally hooked him and brought him in. And that was one of my first experiences and catches and offshore fish in the kayak. And that fish,
Wow.
Nathan's girlfriend at the time worked in the vicinity with Sun Sentinel, the paper. And that's when I ended up meeting Steve Waters. She wrote to them. Yeah, and they did a whole piece
on your mahi.
on my mahi.
No way.
And that is pretty much how all this started.
Was it like, it was kind of like an aha moment for you, like, I'm on to something?
Yeah, I mean, even so, like after that, it still wasn't hitting yet. But after we started getting, you know, people that were hitting up my social media, you know, we're talking, man, yeah, this was like MySpace. This is like towards the end of the MySpace Facebook switchover era. God, I'm old. And yeah, and that's when it all started. And people started asking me, hey, do you do charters? Is this like a thing you guys do? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I've done this for years. I mean, come on. Look at the mahi. I know what I'm doing.
I got an extra kayak.
Yeah. Sardines all day.
So for our listeners, this is what Joe's saying. Go to Walmart, find something that floats. It doesn't matter what it is.
It's not complicated,
Get
guys.
out there, and you're going to get a big mahi.
Throw a line in the water.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go out on a pool noodle with an 80 wide and see what happens.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. Like it really. But listen, like in the end, like I'm kind of one of those people where like I love to do kind of like crazy stuff with experimenting when it comes to things I like to do. Like when it comes to my interests. Like for instance, I love cacti. Right? I keep banging my mouth on this thing. I love cacti. And so I grow like the weird, misshapen, dwarf / crazy looking cacti. I love bonsai. So I love like weird, crazy stuff. I have a reef tank. I only buy stuff that's like deformed, even my clown that's got one fin, just like Nemo. Like it's weird. It's a hobby.
So you've got a pattern of like trying different things, and that's what kind of urged you into the kayaking.
Yeah.
So the extreme kayak fishing tournament.
Yeah.
Like how long after that did you find, like after that big mahi, the write up and stuff, like when did that start coming into play?
I'd say like within that like a year, everything started kind of falling into place. It's weird how the universe sort of works, and the older I get, the more I think about it's real when you really know that something's gonna happen. It happens. Maybe not the way you're envisioning it, but the ball starts rolling, so to speak, and things just kind of start falling into place. So we had that article. People started asking me about charters. So I started doing charters, and we were doing pretty well to the point where I had to actually scale back because I couldn't handle taking more than like 2 people out because you would lose them. And shout out to Deep Blue fishing charters, because they've they do that, and they've done that for years, and they do it the right way. When I was doing it before this was all a thing, like everything is like faking it till you make it, right? So like, that's what I did. I took these people out and pretended like, I've been doing it for years, and we did well. Like, listen, a fisherman's a fisherman. If you know how to fish, you learn pretty quick how to do it the right way, right? Even if in the beginning you were getting lucky. But, and again, it's one of those things where I also believe that, again, what you think kind of happens. And I knew that I would catch fish when I would go out, and we did. And we did that for a couple of years. And then I got a job out of college. I graduated college, and I worked for a company for a year, and I did pretty well, but I stopped in a way kind of kayak fishing because I was getting too busy. Long story short, I'm an entrepreneur. I have it in my blood. I've tried doing the 9-to-5 thing, and there's just something in me that just doesn't fit. It's like 2 blocks that you can't, no matter how much you maybe try to like squeeze them in and fit it together, there's something missing in my DNA that doesn't connect with it. So I ended up leaving that company, and I had nothing, and I said, well, what am I going to do? Like, do I got to move back to Jersey? Do I got to move back home? Like, I don't want to do that, Then I got my dad calling me like, what's wrong with you? Why would you're making good money. What are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I started thinking, well, listen, I learned in college about this social media thing that's getting bigger and bigger, right? Each year. And I learned in college about code and graphic and web design. And I like fishing. So maybe those pieces will fit. And I put those pieces together, and I did my own shirt designs. I knew people that graduated with me, like a guy like George Bustamante, who's to me one of the best photographers, underwater photographers out there. So the people I knew that did media, that did photography, that did web stuff, helped me because we were all friends. We graduated together, and we started building a team of people that just, it all kind of fell into place where I said, I'm going to take kayak fishing, and I'm going to put it with media, and I'm going to start promoting it. I'm going to go out and fish. every chance I get. I'll try to make money on the side. I'll do personal training, and that's when I got my training license and I started training people. So I did that on the side. I was making cash, and it all just kind of fell into place. And that's how it all started.
So the social media kind of helped to grow the tournament itself. And you were telling me before we started here that it's like the second longest.
Yeah.
What is it? Second longest?
We're one of the longest standing live events in South Florida and in Pompano Beach.
And oh wow.
Yeah.
Events. Like
events,
oh, wow.
live events, correct.
Wow.
Yeah. That consistently happens each year at this time.
Right.
We are one of the top events.
So how does this tournament work? Let's there's a Sailfish Smackdown, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the Summer Slam, I believe.
Yeah, so it all started with the Summer Slams. And we started off with one, and we did it in Pompano. We started building a relationship there. I love sales. I love to go and meet people and get sponsorships and talk. In the beginning, no one wanted to sponsor me. Everyone thought I was crazy. Everyone was saying to me, you better have good insurance. You're not going to last a year. Somebody's going to get hurt. How are you going to, keep this event tight, and regulate? And that's when I thought to myself, well, okay, these are good questions, right? Like, so I sat back at the drawing board, and back then it was me, Doug Perez, the Wahoo guy now, George, my wife, who's like the backbone of everything I do, and we came to conclusions to where, okay, well, let's get help boats,
right?
Let's get some captains. Let's have a spy boat that no one knows that fishes the events.
So there's like a whole bunch of things that have to go into a tournament, from the rules, the spy boats. Like I want to dig into this pretty deep because it's super interesting to me.
Spies on message boards that we had and maybe still have.
So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about really the nuts and bolts that make a great tournament. So we were digging into the dynamics of the extreme kayak fishing tournament, kind of the rule, like how you came up with the rules, like, the progression of it, really. Like how did you get to where you're at today?
It evolves, you know what I'm saying? Like over the years, we've done it so long now. But yeah, like in the beginning, we really had to think about how we're going to structure this, like logistically, everything. Because you gotta say to yourself, well, like, these people are bringing their whole set. It's like carrying a boat and everything you have that you're taking offshore to a tournament and then competing. And it's like, there's a lot that goes into that, especially with like Pompano. The beaches are bigger there, so if I get sponsors, right, how are they gonna schlepp all their stuff back and forth with the tents? And so we figured out methods for pretty much everything. Like sponsors, for instance, we got the city, and his name's Mike. He's great, been with us for years. That would bring his loader, for instance, and carry, people's gear onto the beach with the loader, drop it off, pick it up once the event's over, and you tip him and he'll work with you. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. Even the little things are big.
Right.
And on the kayak side, with the anglers, so what made it really popular in the beginning was our shoot-offs. And that's still the favorite thing that anytime I do an event, when there's a shoot-off and you got that morning sunrise, everyone's amped, everyone's ready. Everyone thinks they're going to win or can win or place. The excitement, that everyone waiting for me to do the countdown, that is something that I love more than anything with those events, is those shoot-offs.
I've seen that firsthand, and something incredible to see is just all of those kayak fishermen, all there, just kind of, they almost look like a school of fish, right? I mean, there's just so many of them, that are in one area, and Joe's a nervous wreck running around like a freaking maniac, and then he's got this walkie-talkie, and then he's like, there's a countdown, and then it's like, boom, and these guys are gone. Yep, gone.
How many kayaks are we talking about here?
So it ranges, especially per event, but like our big SummerSlam ones, the most we had was 200. So 200 to 85, it ranges in between. Our sailfish Smackdowns were always smaller events. They're more of like an elites type event. And then we also did the Battle in the Bahamas for many years. So we did international tournaments, which was a logistical nightmare. But we did it, and we did it for 4 years, and those were some experiences I'll never forget. In every way, good, bad. I learned so much about event management and event planning, everything with doing something like that. We did it an extreme tournament in Texas, in Corpus Christi. Now like today, they're trying, and this could be the year from what we're hearing, to make offshore kayak fishing part of the Olympics.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We got a few guys on the U.S. team now. Yeah.
Yeah. So what they did was we are now, we came to an agreement, and we are now a qualifier for these guys to compete in Spain in the Olympics.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
We have a group of around 15 Hawaiians that are coming to the SummerSlam this year to compete.
No
We
way.
need to make slow jigging an Olympic sport also.
Oh, so that's like attracted attention to your tournament, because
Yes.
these guys want to fish the Olympics. Like
Yes.
who wouldn't, right?
Right.
And then in addition to that, being that your event's the qualifier, they're coming from far and wide.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool, man.
I mean, even in the past, we've had anglers from South Africa compete in our tournaments, anglers from all around the country. It's amazing because it really shows with what we built through media, how it's grown and just how effective that really was. And I really attribute I feel like there's social media these days is so different, but I think in the beginning, what really gave us an edge was back then the algorithms were so different and they didn't really exist, so to speak. So you can like post anything, and as long as you did it at the right time, everyone would see it, right? It was so different back then.
yeah.
And in the beginning, that's what really put us on the map. And then we, again, you evolve, you change as you go. But I think in the beginning, like people still come to me and they'll say to me, Joe, that picture of you or that video with you on YouTube with your Wahoo from 18 years ago, I remember that, and that got me into offshore kayak fishing, and that's cool.
That is cool.
That's awesome to hear.
So how do you win, right? So like, all right, I just chopped down my royal palm tree. I dug it out. I've got a kayak now.
Yeah.
And I go out. I'm crushing fish, right?
Right.
Like, what do I need to win this thing?
Again, so that's changed over the years. If you look at our tournaments, our first 7 years, it was mainly a lineup of ocean kayaks, Malibu kayaks, pretty simple rigs and setups. Now, if you look at our shoot-offs, because that's how you get a good gauge on how it's changed. Now you're looking at Hobies across the board. You're looking at getting a brain fart. There's another brand that's really starting to gain steam. Old Town.
Old Town.
So you're
okay.
seeing a lot of Old Towns now. LEDs, sound systems. I mean, the stuff that you see these days on these kayaks are one guy had a flat screen on his kayak.
For his transducer sonar, right?
Like it's just nuts. Yeah.
So do these guys have sonars? Like they've got Simrads and Garmin.
yeah.
Like
They've had those for the past 10 years
Really?
in our tournaments. Oh yeah. It's just amazing. The technology, they've created the small downriggers now. You got guys that are just, I mean, it's all just evolving and getting bigger and better. I mean, even high-speed jigging. When we were going offshore in the beginning, all we did was, use the sardines or, pilchard once in a while.
Right.
And then I'll never forget, it was around 2015, I'd say ish. And all of a sudden it hit like gangbuster, where everybody started getting into high-speed jigging. Everybody. To the point where I would say 20% of people that would fish our summer slams, in the beginning especially, wouldn't even bring live bait. And they were getting on stage consistently with blackfin and kingfish.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when we started Johnny Jigs, we always said that the kayak guys are the OG jiggers.
Dude, yeah. I mean, going out there and seeing what these guys were getting, including myself, back then I still fished, and I would go out in the kayak and fish with these guys. And there were so many days where I would go out with just like 5 high-speed jigs, and, I come back with 5 blackfin.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but the fact that you can float a live line out or have a cut bait, live line cut bait, and have the jig in. One guy's fishing 3 lines.
Exactly.
It's a tournament. You're in your kayak.
Changed the game.
Yep.
Definitely changed the game.
Is that the spread? Is that like the recommended tournament spread?
Yeah, you don't want, so like one of the golden rules for years was you got to be careful with your live bait. You don't want 2 flat lines out, because most of the time they'll get tangled. So how I always used to like doing it is we would go the way you just said, or what we would do is I would have a flat line, then I would have a raised gunnel essentially that it would be a shotgun. So I'd put a rod raised high, let it super far out, and then I would jig. Or I would put a downrigger, so I would put a bait down, and then I would have a flat line and then jig. Most of my wahoo, and that was what I pretty much became known as when I was in my peak of myself fishing offshore, was wahoo. I would get wahoo pretty consistent, especially certain times of the year. And my trick was usually my wahoo would be on a shotgun, super far out, with a pilchard. And I would always use a stinger rig, and I would leave the stinger free, right? Obviously, you don't want to put the stinger in the pilchard, because then it hinders the movement. And wahoo are pretty touchy with movement, and it's got to look, you got to present that bait, really, really well. And almost every time, like clockwork, I would get a wahoo on the shotgun, and it would only be hooked by the stinger rig.
Huh.
I'd say almost all of them.
Wow.
And you would see the J hook swinging free almost every time. Yeah. The stinger was the lifeline.
Do you think just being stealth on the water and being quiet and moving quietly through the water, do you think that plays a role in your success?
Huge. So you've all been diving, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of you guys. So when you dive, you can hear a boat, mile away.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So think if you're a fish, you know what I'm saying? You know they're coming.
Yeah.
I mean, fish are a lot smarter than I ever would have thought since I started kayak fishing. I've learned that. And their sight is impeccable. So yeah, I'd say that has a huge effect in what we do. There was a guy that did a study. He fished my tournaments for years, and this video I would say it went pretty viral back in like 2018-ish, where he put 2 GoPros out of the, in these kayaks, they have those scupper holes where you can, you stick stuff in it or whatever. You put the wheels, you stick them through when you bring them on the beach. Well, he made these like rigs that when he was offshore, as he was going out, he put these GoPros that had a pole that would attach to go through, he had them set up already. So I don't know how he did it, but he had them going through those. And then he had these 2 GoPros underneath his kayak. And what he did was he wanted to show how fish are attracted by the kayak. So he starts going offshore, And all of a sudden, you see, at first you're like, is that a kingfish? And you see a fish slowly, not fast, come up and starts eyeing his kayak. He's got no baits out. He's just going straight out. Long story short, in that video, he had a school of wahoo under his kayak, following him out.
It's a piece of flotsam.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's a pallet.
It's crazy.
It's a pallet.
Crazy.
So, guys, we got to take a quick break, and we'll come back to you and dig into this just a little bit more about the wahoo. And I kind of want to hear about how you guys are staying safe on the water and a little more about the preparation that goes into it. So, quick break, and we'll be right back.
Oh, yeah.
This is hands down one of the most incredible slow pitch jigging rods I've ever used in my life. The great fact is this and nothing less. You're gonna experience catching monster fish with the sensitivity and action like never before.
So talking about like strategy, technique, strategy, so everybody's in this, school of kayaks at the beach, and then gun goes off or radio countdown.
Yeah.
And then it's like, where do you go? How far can you go?
Right.
Like what's your limitations?
Yeah, so you're talking about for like during a tournament,
During
right?
a tournament, yeah. Or even in general, really. I'm just kind of like, how far are these kayak guys going?
Yeah, do we deep swordfish?
Yeah, sword fishing?
Right. Which we actually got a swordfish in our SummerSlam part 1 last year on a
Johnny Jig.
Flatback 300 blue pink.
And the Slow Jigger Elite.
That's right.
Can we just like talk about that for 1 second real quick? How amazing was that?
Tyler O'Neill.
I mean, that is something like you think about the chances of something like that, right? And has it ever happened, right? And then you throw the kayak part in. Like, I'm not even talking about the kayak part, right?
Right. Plenty of jigs are bouncing around in 300 feet
Right.
any given day.
Right. And then it's a keeper swordfish.
So I'm gonna pick. I was there, right?
Unbelievable.
Not on the water, but I was on the beach and I was hanging out. So
I was with you.
Yeah, that's right, Chris.
Yeah.
So painting the picture, like
I didn't believe it.
It's like
at first.
Yeah. Radio goes off, right? Like, what were they saying on the radio?
We started getting calls in from the help boats, and they're like, we're trying to find a guy, and they're saying he's got like a marlin, and and we can't find him. And listen, I've heard this a million times. You know what I mean? I do a sailfish tournament, so
For 18 years.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm saying to everyone that where I'm hearing this, I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah,
It's
sure
one of those,
you do, buddy.
It's one of those noobs, or it's one of those out of towners that just doesn't know.
Yeah.
So I already in my head am thinking that it's a sailfish, right? And yeah, we just kept hearing like more weird information. Like it was like a drip type thing. Another guy got on the radio and he's like, yeah, I see him, and it's either a marlin or like a swordfish. And then I'm like,
oh, the story gets bigger.
sure it is, buddy. And we just kept hearing more and more information. And I'm like, what's wrong with these people? Like, I know some of these guys. How do they not know what this thing is? It's a sailfish. Come on. And then
I think Sean Rolls confirmed it, right?
I think Sean. It was either Sean or this kid Bobby that called me that are tournament regulars that they know, and it was one or the other. But one of them called me, and he's like, "Listen, I'm going to be sending you some pictures, and you're not going to believe what you're going to see." And I'm like, "Okay," and he shoots off these pictures to me. And I think you were getting the pictures at the same time or something like that. Because Johnny and I were on the beach going back and forth trying to figure this out. And lo and behold, man, it was a swordfish. And I'm like, this isn't real.
The kid got great footage
AI?
of too.
Like, yeah.
He had great
I'm like,
GoPro
what
footage.
is this? Like, are you kidding me? And then like some guy that came from Jacksonville that fished the tournament also got footage. So I ended up hunting him down and getting some stuff from him. It's like, so like everything that like also needed to happen kind of happened as well, like after the fact. It was amazing.
I want to put this in perspective for our listeners. So Tyler O'Neill joined the Extreme Kayak Fishing Tournament. Okay. Paddled out to 300 feet in his, Hobie kayak, I believe.
First year doing it, the tournament?
Pretty new. I don't know if it was his first year, but it was either first or second. Yeah.
And he had a slow pitch jigging rod with a Saltese 20 manual reel. I believe it was either spool with 20-pound test or 30-pound test.
Saltese 35.
Saltese 35. Okay. And then he had probably like 40 or 50-pound test fluorocarbon on there. And he tied on a flatback Johnny Jig and caught a swordfish, manually reeled him up in 300 feet of water on a kayak during a tournament. Insane, right?
How? How did that happen?
Yeah, and it's such an anomaly that swordfish wasn't a weighable fish in the tournament. Like, is there?
Yeah, I don't. That's the other thing is like the big debate was, should he have, since it was a keeper, should he have brought the fish in to showcase on stage? Because then it would, I believe, taken it to a whole nother level. But then again, it could be a risk, right? Because, we were still kind of gray on like the law there.
HMS permit.
Yeah. And whether it was state waters or local, everyone was kind of like gray on that. And then on top of that, realistically, it wasn't a eligible fish in my tournament. I mean, who's going to put in their rules? Yeah, eligible swordfish in a kayak tournament. I mean, people would think I was nuts, you know?
You might as well put blue whale.
Right. But then again, you never...
Narwhal.
But then again, you just never know, right? Because when I did my first sailfish tournament, I had so many people saying that it would never work, that there's no way. You can't catch sailfish on a kayak consistently. You're not going to get an event out of that. It's impossible. So, I mean, again, you never know. You just really never know.
Joe, I have a question for you. Earlier in the cast, you were talking about spy boats.
Yeah.
And the spies online. Can you elaborate more on that? Because that is interesting.
Yeah, so...
Unless you want to keep it a secret.
Any spies here, first off, that we should know about, or no?
Maybe.
Right.
I believe I was a spy at one tournament.
So essentially, in the beginning, I had multiple guys that I trusted and that I was close with that were part of, and a lot of these forums actually aren't even there anymore, but that were a part of, back then it was really big, some of these kayak forums, like I think Florida Sportsman was one of them, and these kayak sections were huge, and that's where like the community, everyone would go to, bash me and, how much is Joe making, and he needs to give out more, and, all these things. And so and good stuff, a lot of good stuff, a lot of, weird stuff. And so I, from people not knowing, knew what was essentially being talked about and what was going on. Now, how that helped me, well, two things. One, you can't take anything personal when you're in this type of business. You got to throw that out the window. And then two, you take what you're hearing, and you implement that, and how can you make it better? How can you fix certain things? Oh, this guy's complaining about this. Well, how can we fix this? And obviously, half were like just outlandish like stuff, but the other half was legitimate stuff that I feel that we could improve on. Right. So
what about the boat?
And then the boat, we started doing that. We had an issue years ago where it was believed that an angler cheated. And long story short, we had to do a lie detector test thing, and we had to do the submission, and it was a pain in the butt. But the thing is, it became a mess to where I wanted to implement, and we solved it, but I wanted to fix that by getting a third boat. Let's say I get 2. I will always get 3 or 4, and there'll be a boat with a group of guys with binoculars on there, and their only job is to watch, because the beauty of when you're fishing offshore in a kayak, they don't have motors, so they're not going far. And if you have a motor, you can watch them, and you could stay within these big groups. A lot of times when these guys disperse, there'll be just groups and pockets of these guys, and you're able to watch them and see what they're doing when they're out there.
So how could someone how could someone cheat? How would that affect it?
How would we catch them?
I mean, yeah. What would the cheating be? You know, like they have a fish floating on a buoy that they go over to grab the pull up that they say they caught, or how would?
Oh, that's pretty clever. How'd you come up with that so quick?
I won
Adam?
a couple tournaments in my day.
How they would cheat would be, let's say they had a friend that had a boat that went fishing that morning. They would pull up on a kayak and whoop, hand them a fish, hand them a kingfish, whatever. So stuff like that is what we're watching.
My conscience would not allow me to do something like that.
Yeah, again, doing these tournaments as long as I've been doing them, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that we would hear or that we caught. Just crazy.
Like
Crazy
stuffing
stuff.
lead weights down a bass's mouth.
We've been out on the water fishing on many of the tournament days. I remember we got a great picture of Sean Rolls on that 30-pound blackfin 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
When we see
told me
Sean, we
about
see
that.
Justin Ritchie out there.
Yep.
We've pulled up to them to, just real quick, hello.
Say hi, yeah.
We
Yeah.
were probably being spied.
Oh,
Oh, I knew about the you guys seeing Sean.
there was a spy watching us.
Yeah.
Probably.
You know, we were a support
eye.
boat.
It's always
You
watching.
weren't with me, Chris, that day, but I volunteered to be a support boat for the tournament a few years ago. And did you remember there was a guy,
Oh,
I think he was
gosh.
from Alabama,
Oh,
and
boy.
he'd never been in the ocean kayak fishing before in his life. And you hear him on the radio. He's like, guys, I think I'm getting swept away in the current here. right? So, and then Joe put this guy on the boat with me to help. He was very helpful, but he was not. He was
my
like, "Sir,
gosh.
you're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait." And I'm like, "Really? All right, fine. He's gonna wait." But fast forward like an hour and a half later, right? This guy's back on the radio. Fellas, I just don't think I'm gonna be able to make it back to where we lost, right? And I'm
gosh.
like, "All right, sir. What's your coordinates?" "Oh, I don't have my depth finder is not working." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Are you south or north of the lighthouse?" "Well, a school of bonita just went by and there's big waves. I see a sailboat. I think it's a sailboat." And I'm like, all right, well, that kind of pinpoints it for me in this vast ocean, right? So, like,
Any peers, anything? The
Right.
guy was just
so he and I are like jawing back and forth, and he's giving me descriptions that, like, it's like giving someone directions and telling them that there's a squirrel on a fence post on the corner here. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
I'm never gonna find this dude. So I'm like, but we're on the cell phone. And I'm like, do you know how to do a drop pin on Google Maps? And he's like, yes. So he sends me a drop pin, so I know where he's at, right? So I get this drop pin in the middle of the Atlantic, right? And I go, we're in Pompano. I go, Pompano, Deerfield, Boca, almost to Boynton Beach.
Yeah.
And here's
Oh,
this
yeah.
guy.
it's insane.
He was just way.
This poor guy.
So
I never saw
Looking
him
at the
again.
water tower.
I'm like, sir, you don't have any fish. I don't think you're gonna win this tournament. I'm like, we're just gonna pull your kayak onto my boat.
Get on the boat.
Does that disqualify him?
Yeah, you can't be picked up.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, you're officially like all up in the bushes somewhere. So
Oh man, yeah, he was far, man. We that was actually one of the farthest that we ended up having. Yeah,
but I think that's a testament to having the support boats there,
Yeah.
right? Dude from out of town, I'm running a decent boat that I can get up and go, and I can chase him down pretty much all the way to the Bahamas if I had to.
Yeah.
So
right.
that was a good thing. But also with the tournaments, like, I remember tournament day being out there fishing with Chris and being like, man, these guys are everywhere. I'm like, and you got to be, like, I think on those days I'm
Yeah.
more hyper alert of where I'm at. But so what are these guys doing like safety wise to be seen What's the best thing to do?
Yeah. So the beauty of our tournaments, we take safety like very, very seriously. So we have the Coast Guard that comes out in the morning, and they check everyone's kayaks for the right safety gear that they have to have. It's mandatory. Once their kayaks are checked, they get a sticker that they slap on the kayak for that tournament to prove that they were checked. So our boats that are offshore know that they're part of the event. And what they check for is it's mandatory to have a safety flag, which would be a visual device. You need a sound device, which would be which a lot of times we offer in their captain bags. They'll get like a Hobie whistle, something like that they could stick on their, which is the next part, their PFDs. So you got to have a life vest, flotation device.
Okay.
So those are the three big ones. And the visual device, to me, is one of the most important because, like you were saying, on tournament day, I mean, we know Pompano on a Saturday, right? It's insane. And now you're throwing and sprinkling, 100 kayaks out there. It gets pretty nuts. But I will also say, I feel, I've been doing this now for almost 20 years, and we have not, now I need to knock on wood now if I'm going to say this, but we have not had really anything that hurt or harmed any angler that's fished our events. So that's how serious, we take safety. You think about logistically the type of events that I run over the years in other countries, other states, and here, and we have been able to rescue someone that needs to be rescued like that. We have a solid team of captains that know what they're doing, that know the waters, and we have a solid game plan when someone does need help. And I think that has really helped us over the years to have that great track record.
Yeah, that's a testament to your tournament and just the longevity of it. I think that plays a big role in it.
All right, Joe. So let's round this show out and tell us what to expect from the EKFT events this year, 2025.
Yeah, so we're really excited because we're putting a lot of effort into the SummerSlam this year. So since COVID, the SummerSlam obviously took a dip. It's a live event. And then 2 years, straight, it was we were trying to get it back to what it was before COVID, where we had a big crowd of people. It was a big party on the beach, vendor tents, live music, all these different other events that are going on. Well, last year we started really promoting it more with grassroots marketing. I wanted to get back more into that because I used to do a lot of grassroots marketing with that tournament, and it worked well. So we changed strategies a little bit and started doing that. And last year for the SummerSlam 2, we had a monster crowd. We had multiple other events that went on, and we're really excited to kind of bring that event side of that tournament back into the SummerSlam. We have a CrossFit competition that'll be going on in conjunction. We're going to have a paddleboard race. We're going to have a lot of different vendors that'll be showing up. Anglers can get a chiropractic adjustment if they want when they're done kayak fishing. We're going to have, Budweiser there. We're going to have Jersey Mike subs, Zona Fresca. We're going to have a kids sandcastle competition.
Johnny Jigs.
Yeah, Johnny Jigs will be there, and it's going to be a fun event and for everyone. That's the goal, is to get more of the sports-oriented people out there and with families and kids like it used to be. And last year, I was so excited by that. SummerSlam 1, we didn't really have the crowd, but that was because we had to move the event. Weather, unfortunately, hindered us with that. That's a big dent. When we get bad weather and we got to move a slam, oh my God. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Because, that's because it's such a big event.
A lot of logistics.
A lot. Sailfish tournaments, they're not a big deal because we don't have the event side of it. But we're excited about this year. That's taking place June 7th. And then August 9th is the SummerSlam Part 2. We have coming up right around the corner the Exotic Bass Roundup. And that's one of our newer tournaments, and that brings the freshwater side to Extreme, and it's only for exotics. So peacock bass, clown knifefish, snakeheads, what are they called? The sunshine bass, just a bunch of different species, red-tail catfish. We have $1,000 red-tail catfish division.
What?
Just cool stuff. Nautical Ventures, they're one of the main sponsors for that tournament, and we got $2,000 for first place, $1,000 for second, $500 for third. It just keeps going down and down and down. We got a whole bunch of prizes. We got custom-made wood trophies with America flags on them, and the peacock bass, clown knifefish on them, custom from Warren, and he does Power Core rods. And he's been making these beautiful trophies for us the past couple of years. And we're just really excited about these events coming up for this year.
That sounds freaking super exciting, man.
And you guys will be involved in the Summer Slam.
I cannot wait.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
It's fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Is.
Definitely.
Is registration still open, and where can folks get more information or register for any of these events?
Yeah, so actually early registration just opened for the Summer Slams. If you register for both tournaments, you get $50 off your entry. But you got to register for both. And if you register before May 1st, you get a free SA Company, another one of our sponsors, apparel. You get a custom tournament shirt, a straw hat, and a face shield. And you can go to extremekayakfishing.com to register for that tournament. Or you can find us on Instagram at Extreme Kayak Fishing, Facebook, Extreme Kayak Fishing Inc., and if you need to talk to me personally, I'm on there as well, Joe Hector. So
just punched Extreme Kayak Fishing in a Google search. It's gonna
we'll be
pop
right
up.
there. Boop.
So we can't end the show without talking about the Weekly Fisherman Show.
Of course,
the legend Eric Brandon.
Yes,
and this radio show. I'm gonna be on Saturday.
You're gonna be on Saturday, man.
Saturday. Yeah. We're gonna talk fishing there. But I've had many trips to the show and been on the show with you guys quite a few times. I think I'm like a regular pretty much at this point. It's been super fun. But where did that start out for you?
Yeah, so all right, I did a podcast for years called Kayak Fishing Raw. And me and my friend Jay did this and this is when podcasts were still pretty new. And we just had a blast doing it. And out of nowhere, I got a email from Eric. And now Eric used to be the host on Kiss Country.
That's right.
And he was the guy. Yep. So if you heard Kiss Country for years, he was the main guy. And long story short, he ended up working with Nautical, and then he became a host on the Weekly Fisherman Show with Steve Waters, who is a writer for the Sun Sentinel, or was. Long story short, I get an email from Eric saying, listen, I know Nautical sponsors your tournaments and you're good with the emceeing and you're comfortable. You already do a podcast. Our guy, Steve, he's really sick. He's going to be out for a couple episodes. Can you come in and fill in for this guy? And I said, yeah, I could do that. No problem. So I get on the show, and it was like a hit, and they had like everything kind of went up. And of course, I shared it and stuff with our media, our email list, that whole thing. But what they also noticed when they looked at their demographics for those two shows on the back end was the age. They had a big bump in millennials for that show. And that's something they needed. And that's, long story short, they asked me if I could stay full time. And I was like, sure. All right, I'll do it.
That's
so they
cool.
hired me for the show full time, which airs every Saturday on Fox Sports Radio on 940, the Miami Dolphins radio network. And we've been doing that. And Eric and I, we jive well. You know, Eric's like 80 years old, and it's great working with an old guy, and
he's not here to defend himself.
Yeah.
And that's how the show goes.
Yeah. And that pretty much what happens on the show.
So what's the structure of the show? I've been on it a million times, but I want you to tell the listeners, what's the structure?
What's great about the Weekly Fisherman is we cover all types of fishing. So we talk about everything and anything when it comes to fishing. We have some of the top captains in Florida that are on that show that give their fishing reports.
They call in live.
Yeah, live. And even guys are catching fish live
They're
while
literally
they're talking.
on the boat, most of them, when they're calling in.
And the beauty of me being on the show now for a couple of years, they gave me a little more power to do some things and bring on some more of like my kind of guys. And so I brought in guys like Sean Rolls, other millennials, Johnny, he's part of the show now, bringing Johnny in, guys like the other Johnny,
Johnny Stabile.
Yep, Johnny Stabile, and who's on the freshwater side. So we got a good mix of some of my guys on there and Eric's guys, and now I think it's the whole show premise is just fun. I think that's the best way just to describe it, because we talk about it all and we joke, we have a good time. And when you're up early like that, the last thing you want is some kind of monotone, show, right? It's like, 6 a.m, you're ready to go, right? You got your first coffee in, you're ready to rock, and you want to hear something fun, uplifting. And you throw in the fishing part, and it's a win.
It's upbeat, man. I can my first show, just the intensity of the audio in my headphones with this microphone, my heart was racing.
Johnny's first show, you're so nervous. He's like,
dude, I'm checking my heart on my watch, making sure I'm not having a heart attack. But I've gotten comfortable with it since.
Yeah.
But what I think I love about the show the most is that we're getting real time information on what's going on in the water, right? So when these captains are like, hey, there's mahi out, 300, or there's a weed line and 1,000, the mahi are chewing, we're hitting blackfins and 2 fit. I am dialed in. I want to know this stuff. But not only that, but then it goes into the freshwater stuff, and Johnny Stabile, chimes in, and he's like, hey, you know what? The peacocks are down deep. It's cold right now, so this is what you need to put out and whatnot. So these dudes are spilling the beans, and they're telling you how to catch fish. So it's an incredible show.
When he does the show, he'll call me most days on his way home and basically say, Monday's good. We're going out. This is what we're doing.
Right.
And it's all the feedback that he got from the captains that all call in that day.
And that's the thing. It really works. And that's the other great part of the show. During the show live, we have a feed. So we have a live feed that goes on. We all have our phones out, and we get to answer questions. Johnny gets questions during the show. So we're answering questions. We got people asking us to ask questions to some of these captains. So it's engaging, and it's great for people that are going out in the morning that are like, what am I going to do today? Am I going to go for blackfin, mahi? What's my strategy?
And then at the end of the show, a horse comes out,
Penny,
and eats
we love
carrots.
Penny. Yeah,
Literally.
Eric has a bag of carrots that he feeds Penny. She's kind of like our mascot, and we love Penny. So I'm like, she's a horse.
The first day,
you're not kidding. You're serious.
No, she's a real horse.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking.
Yeah.
I don't think your listeners realize there is a horse here.
You got to tune into the video feed.
And this horse is knocking over stuff.
Oh yeah, trying to eat my coffee,
eating carrots. Yeah, it's incredible. Joe, dude, you've probably been our favorite guest on the show. This was so much fun, man.
Thank you,
dude.
This is great.
Congratulations with all your success with the kayak tournament. We're happy to be a part of such a great tournament,
of course,
every year, and be a part of the radio show that you're a part of. So you're just knocking it out of the park in this world, man. And we really appreciate you and being a part of Johnny Jigs with us as well.
Thank you. No, I appreciate you guys and bringing me on the show. And if it wasn't for us in the gym that one day, we just hit it off, started talking, and we've heard of each other. And it just we never were able to meet or talk.
Yeah.
And then we were able to connect. And then I got to meet awesome guys like you and just it growing from there. And now I literally consider us like a team. Like when Eric talks, he's like, Johnny and Joe and just the fun stuff, getting your first clown.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
During the tournament with Johnny.
That was awesome.
Yeah. It's just the whole thing to me is just fun. And in the end, right, when you look outside the whole picture, of what we all do, in the end, we're just kids, man. We want to have fun. We're a couple guys that just, listen, a lot of times, and I meet a lot of people like this, they forget why they started something in the first place, and it gets lost sometimes.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, listen, what we do is hard, man. Life is hard. But if you like kind of rewind the clock and you're like, wait, why did I get involved in that? And then you think about that, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I designed my tournaments, is for everyone that's a part of it to have just a good time, you know, and smile and, you know, bring their kids and maybe catch a fish. But that's not what it's about. You know what I mean? And that's the anglers, you know, how my events have evolved over the years. I've noticed it. You see it. And my anglers have evolved. You know, in the beginning, it was a lot of guys that wanted to win money, right? And yeah, we offer money. But now you're noticing the change of people that have fished it for years, or let's say they fished their first one. It's contagious. And now when you're at my event, you see anglers all mingling, having a good time, coming back to the beach, who worked there. Can I curse?
Yeah.
Asses off,
Yeah.
right? That whole day kayak fishing, which you told me a story about how hard it actually is, right? And they're coming back and they're drenched in salt water, fish guts, piss, whatever. And they're like, man, that was fun, man, but I want to go up there and have a beer and have a sub and have a burrito and, you know, and talk to that hot girl and get a chiropractic adjustment and, you know, check out these vendor tents and listen to music and have a good time. Then you see their kids come down, they're all smiling, and that's what it's about.
It's about being a part of something really cool.
Yes.
And I think that just kind of really puts the whole thing in perspective.
Right.
Kayak fishing's freaking rad.
Yeah. It's fun.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to Tappin' Bottom with Johnny Jigs. If you want to see the visual of this podcast, you can go to our YouTube channel. There is a section that's divided for the podcast. As well as if you want to see some of the Extreme Kayak Fishing Tournament, go over to extremekayakfishing.com. And guys, as always, keep tapping that bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Jig on.